Hey everybody, Michelle Atlas here, and we're going to talk today about what it is about this time that has the amazing power to catalyze moving us from our ordinary to extraordinary. So I believe beyond a shadow of a doubt, if you are here with me right now, if you're in this group, if you are drawn to this group, that you've been in the school of life for a very, very long time. You're no stranger to transformation. And that probably, this lifetime and maybe many others, depending on what your belief system is. And so what I want to say is that this life has already been a test. Life has already been the test. And so the lesson for you is it's time to come out of the oven. It's like the timer is ringing, right? It's like you're cooked. You've been in the oven a long time. And I'm not suggesting that we stop transforming. Personal transformation is the work of a lifetime. What I'm suggesting is that you have probably been working very hard for quite some time, and I'm guessing that you have experienced quite a bit of suffering in this life. I'm guessing you've experienced hardships. I'm guessing you've experienced losses. I'm guessing you've experienced plenty of challenges. And my sense is that you have probably risen wholeheartedly to the occasion of using those difficulties to grow yourself, to deepen yourself, to acquire greater understanding of yourself and of life. I'm sure that you've done lots and lots of healing work. And so those of us who are passionate about healing and transformation tend to be very sensitive. And we also somehow hand in hand with the strength and courage it takes to do the tremendous amount of to commit to the level of healing that we have, also with that personality tends to come self-doubt and all sorts of questions about our worthiness, our worth. Okay. And so we tend to question our readiness. We tend to question our worthiness to really share our unique light in this world. We tend to doubt whether our particular medicine will really benefit other people, whether it's really okay, whether we have permission to really touch others with our unique gifts. Okay, and so again, I want to say our number's up. The timer has gone off. It's time to come out of the oven. Each and every one of us is carrying much more medicine than we realize, many more gifts than we realize. Our very existence, when we have done this much work, when we've been working on ourselves our entire life, when we've been committed to healing and growth and wanted the very best for ourselves and for others most of our life, our very light, our very existence is a light in this world. You've already passed 1 million tests. You've already learned more than you possibly could imagine, and not everybody in the world has. So those who are in this position of really carrying this light are going to be, are being called upon in many ways, subtle and not so subtle, to be that presence for others in this world at this time. Right now, without learning one more thing, without doing one more thing, you are more than enough. So as you're listening to this message, as you're listening to me chat with you today, if you're finding yourself leaping up into your mind saying, wow, this sounds good, this resonates, I think this is true for me, but what does it mean? What should I do now? What does it mean? What is it that I'm supposed to do right now? Exactly what is it that I'm supposed to share right now? How am I supposed to share it? You know, what's the system? What are the, what's the step-by-step guide? I want to say to you that if you're finding yourself, with an edge of anxiety, sort of a combination of inspiration and anxiety as you listen to me share this perspective that I'm sharing, then you're leaping into your left brain. You're leaping into that impulse that when we doubt ourselves, whether it's conscious or not, that impulse that we all have to try to control our experience and control our outcomes. That's a power leak. That's the exact opposite of what I'm sharing with you today, of where you want to really be resting and landing in yourself. Okay. So when you find yourself becoming too intellectual and starting to worry too much about the specifics, just know that you can let that go, that that's not the pathway to doing what we're talking about today. So you don't need to worry about that. Again, I'm going to say that your mere existence elevates other people. Everything that you've done to this point has strengthened your self-leadership muscle. And people who have strong self-leadership muscles are in the best position to lead other people. I'm just going to take a sip of water here. So it's very difficult to lead other people when you don't have a strong connection to the core of your own self-agency, of your own self-authority. And when you do, you're a very natural leader. So maybe like me, the word leadership is a little bit daunting. Maybe you don't identify with it. Maybe it scares you and you wonder, what does that mean for me, right? So perhaps you've thought that in the past, maybe you've had concepts that, being a leader might mean that you'd be egotistical, that you'd be identified with being somebody's guru, that maybe you'd have to be somebody else's authority and boss them around. I had a big leadership shadow myself for a long time. And it wasn't until I took the money archetype quiz that I now give to all of my clients and that I'll be sharing with everybody in this group, the URL to take that so you can learn about your money personality profile for next week's session. But when I took the money archetype quiz, I discovered that my money shadow was ruler. And ruler is a very powerful leader. It's a very, the ruler is the kind of leader that might even have, build an empire, that might have multiple employees, this sort of thing, and be quite a successful and innovative business person. Well, I scored really low on that in my shadow, which meant that I had the lid on a potential in that area, and I had the lid on tight. And what had happened for me was that, I grew up with a mother who was very domineering. And so my concept of what it meant to be a leader, she was always, a manager in the jobs that she was in. She was very critical. She was very bossy. She was very overbearing. And so I grew up with this concept that that's what you needed to be a leader, in fact. And that was not me. And I didn't want any part of that. And so what happened for me was, as I grew up, I felt almost deficient because I didn't identify with anything that I thought had to do with leadership. And when I began my business, when I would hire vendors to support me in different capacities, I found myself dropping into a role with them where I was behaving as if I was working for them instead of them working for me. And this became a big wake-up call, created a big wake-up call for me. So when I saw that I had this leadership shadow, what it told me was that I had a big leadership potential and that I needed to look at my limiting false beliefs around what a leader was so that I could discover my authentic, natural, really truly powerful leader according to my nature, according to my personality. And so I would encourage you, if you're listening to this, to consider the inquiry around your concept of leadership. What does it mean to you when you think of yourself as becoming a leader or being a leader? What kind of role models have you had in your life around leadership, and were they favorable and attractive to you or not? Just really contemplate that. So what I would say to you is that the kind of leadership that I'm talking about here today, or the true meaning of leadership that I'm speaking about here today, is when you are serving at the very highest level that you possibly could serve at, you are being a leader. And that's going to mean something very different for each and every person. Okay, it's going to mean something very different for each and every person. So it has nothing to do with overshadowing another person's self-agency, authority. It has nothing to do with telling other people what to do. And in fact, the most important thing that you need to understand is that it has nothing to do with needing to know everything. Quite the contrary. The most powerful blessing you can actually offer another person is to support them in the realm of discovery, into coming up with their own answers, into connecting with their own internal wisdom. It's not about thinking that it's not about the kind of confidence that says, I already know everything and I'm just going to tell you what I know. Okay, so you could never give a greater gift to another person than to lead them deeper into themselves. And so I'm wanting today to encourage you to think very, very differently about the transformational work that you've done, that you've dedicated your life to. And I want you to think of it as not only having transformed you and having taught you so very much and having healed so very much of your own wounds, but again, I'm wanting to encourage you to think of it as having strengthened your natural, your organic leadership muscle. And so now it's time for you to lead with your light. Following your own inner guidance and your own inner lead is going to be the very thing that keeps you from suffering during these very tough times that we have entered into and that we will be in for some time. I'm going to say that again. Following your own inner leader, your own inner lead, your own inner guidance is what's going to keep you from suffering during these very tough times. And when you're not suffering and you're living in your own light and your own leadership, you're going to be a beacon of light for others, very naturally, very, very effortlessly. So we're talking about embracing your deeper truth here. And we're talking about paying attention to what life is asking of you right now so that you remain aligned with your own light. That's a big deal. It's a discovery. It's not an event. The left brain will always want it to be an event. It's like, okay, I'll do that right now. Okay, what should I do? I'll go get it done. I'll wrap it up with a big bow and it'll be done. It doesn't work like that. It's another process. It's another journey that we're entering into. It's the wild feminine, in fact. And the wild feminine is all about mystery. It's all about what we don't yet know. It's all about mutability. It's about navigating diffused energy, not necessarily super crystal clear pointed energy. So it's about really living in a place of discovery and curiosity and the mystery ongoing, right, within. So in order to avail ourselves of the kind of deeper truths that I am talking about here, there are a couple of things that are really helpful that I've discovered are really helpful to stop doing, to omit from life, to clear the path for what we're talking about here today. And one of those is, and we've talked a little bit about this before, but one of those is comparing yourself to other people. And so, I even recently, after all the work that I've done on comparison, I found myself recently during this particular crisis. I'm an artist also, and I found myself during this particular crisis thinking that I should be producing more art right now, right? That we've got a little bit more time on our hands, and that I should be using this time, and that others were going to expect of me that I'd be producing all kinds of art. And my creative energy has been very, very, very magnetically drawn to funneling into my business at this point in time. And I really haven't felt like doing a lot of art. It just has not, I haven't been in that flow at all, but I was trying to sort of force myself and feeling like I would kind of lose traction and lose connection with others in the artist community that I love being a part of if I wasn't doing a lot of art right now. And I had to notice that I was falling into that comparison again, and it was really derailing me from my essence. It was derailing me from my own self-leadership, from feeling deeply aligned and rooted in my own power and where my creative energies naturally and organically want to be focused right now. So I quickly shifted out of that mindset. The other area that it's really super helpful to, the other thing that it's really super helpful to stop doing to, again, clear the path for you to connect more deeply with yourself, with your own light, and with your own inner guidance, is watching the propensity to be sort of obsessed with social media and, in a sense, the media in general. So it's important to stay up on things, and it's certainly important to stay connected virtually in whatever way you can, since we can't stay connected in so many of the ways that we're used to. That being said, it's really important when you're attempting to kind of birth something new, when you're in that inquiry of what your next steps are, to not dissipate your energy constantly by constantly interrupting yourself by checking your phone, 10 million times a day, or watching the news, 5 times a day instead of 1 time a day, for example. So what happens is that when we, I'll say, indulge in all of these distractions, what happens is it's a form of resistance. It can be a form of resistance to really resting into the unknown. And because it's in that unknown that we're going to discover this deeper guidance, this deeper call that I'm talking about, that I really believe that anybody who's listening to this message is probably on this planet at this point in time specifically for. And so, it's important to kind of just notice that there may be some resistance fueling all that, all those distracting behaviors, okay? Because the fact that we are not able to control our world in the way that we are used to has thrown us out of our comfort zone. And it's by allowing ourselves to be thrown out of our comfort zone that we're going to discover something new, something different, that we're going to birth what we were born to do here. So the deal is that when we stop giving our power, that all of that is also a symptom of a lack of self-love, a lack of self-care. And so when we stop giving our power away to other people and other distractions, all of that energy that we were using to, constantly, surf the net, or, check our phone, or whatever it is that we do, we all have something, some kind of propensity. All that energy, that when we pull that back in and we hold it in a more focused, loving container, then we're providing a very fertile field for this new, what wants to emerge, what wants to birth this sort of new coherence, to begin coordinating, to begin, really coordinating around who we are, right? And when we do this is when we start to see what we think of as magical synchronicities, magical serendipities, when beautiful unexpected things happen, as well as maybe some of the things that we do expect that we're working on. It's not so magical. Life can only harmonize with our vibration. And when we hold ourselves lovingly, again, accountable, within a container of focus and a container of nurturance for what we're birthing, we're raising our frequency. And so life will begin to match that frequency. It's physics. It's not fluff, and it's not magic. It's physics. It's science. So another good reason to kind of head in that direction. So what we're going for here is a business and a life, of course, because they're not separate when you're an entrepreneur, if you haven't noticed, that connects you more deeply to you. And so your particular response to this crisis that we're in is going to represent your commitment to what you were made for. Think of your response to this particular crisis that we're in as a symbol of your commitment to aligning with what you came to this world for, with what you were born to do. That's a very, very powerful mantra. If you think of it that way, it will support you immensely in beginning to coordinate your thoughts your beliefs, your emotions, and your behaviors around what matters most to you and around the highest level of service you can rise to during these times. So we're going to do a little meditation right now um, before we say goodbye for today. But before we do that, I'm just going to mention to you that in a couple of weeks, I'm going to be launching a very intimate, high-touch group coaching program called Radiant Success, where we're going to be providing you with a tremendous amount of support and focus in all of these things that we've been talking about in these live sessions over the last couple of weeks, plus a very deep dive into your money consciousness. And I'm not going to go into any kind of a big, sales tangent right now at all. I'm not going to take our focus away from this precious content that we've been navigating today. But I want you to know about that. And if you are interested in exploring whether that might be a fit for you, and I've priced it to be very respectful of the financial journey that people are on right now, you'll be delighted. So if you're interested in learning more and exploring whether it might be a fit for you, message me, please, and let me know of your interest. So for now, let's just close our eyes for a moment and take a little journey within and anchor ourselves more deeply into what we've just talked about. So go ahead and close your eyes and begin to take some nice, beautiful, deep breaths all the way down into your hips, into your lower back. Just really, really drop down. Allow yourself to just really rest into whatever you're sitting on. Notice your breathing without trying to change it. Just really allow yourself to rest into the safety of your own core. And place your hands somewhere on your body, your solar plexus, your heart, or the cheeks of your face are great power spots. And allow yourself to just melt into the warmth that's generated by your own touch. And whenever you're ready, just ask yourself internally with a lot of love, if you believed that you were completely ready to lead at the highest level, what would you do differently? What's one thing you would be doing differently right now? If you believed that you couldn't fail, that it was what was deeply wanted of you by Source, that it was absolutely what you were born to do, lead at the highest level in your life and your business, what's one thing you would do differently? And now ask yourself again with a lot of love, a lot of patience and respect, what might be in the way of taking that step? And really allow yourself to know with no judgment what that is. Is it a belief? Is it a projection onto somebody else? Is it a fear? And now, last question would be to ask yourself again with great love, great regard for all that you've done, for all that you are. What kind of support do you need most right now to help you move forward into your most natural level of leadership? And whenever you're ready, take another beautiful, full, deep breath all the way down into your hips and your lower back. And thank yourself for whatever wisdom, whatever vulnerable truth was revealed today. And whenever you're ready, you can open your eyes and come back. Hi, Mary. Hi, Leslie. Great to see you. Anything you want to share before we say goodbye for today? You can, if you do, you can unmute yourself.
Michelle, would you mind to repeat the 3 questions that you just asked? I want to journal more about them.
Oh, sure. Gosh, they were spontaneous.
Oh,
Let me,
I can listen to the recording later. It's okay.
Part of what happens when that happens is you don't always realize what's happening. So let's see.
They were really good.
Oh, good. Yeah, that's what happens when you're that was modeling. So
That was fantastic. Yeah.
yeah. So the first, I believe, was if you believed with all your heart that you were ready.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
What's one thing you would do differently?
Yeah.
The second question is what might be in the way of that? And I was asking if it was, a belief or a projection onto someone else or a fear. And then the third question is exactly what kind of support might you need, to
Great.
support you through that into your leadership.
Yeah. Thank you.
Sure, absolutely.
But I loved it. I thought it was all great. And I really resonated with like the left brain trying to take over, because that's what has been happening to me a lot the last couple weeks. So yeah, the permission to let go and keep going was very helpful.
Yes, yes, yes. And, in that vein, that's a really beautiful comment, Mary. And in that vein, I'll say that really the message here is you're already it. You're already, not only are you already embodying it, you're already doing it. So it's the left brain and, and this sort of impulse, this belief that if we don't control it, it won't happen, or it won't happen right. We won't do it right, and then, it'll be a mess, all the good won't happen. Right. And so, the deal is that not only are you already being it, but most likely you're already doing it. And when we talk about, well, what would you do if what one thing would you do differently? Usually that's not what you think, it's not, it's, in other words, so it's not like, it's more subtle, I guess is what I'm saying. So encouraging, more of like looking in terms of looking for your authentic response to that question. It's more like, who am I already being? What are the gifts that I've always carried? And for women in particular, 99.9% of the time, it's about becoming more visible in who you already are, and not about becoming something that you're not, or something that you haven't yet developed, or something that you haven't yet learned, or this kind of thing. 99.9% of the time, it's about dropping whatever veils or concepts or fears are in the way of simply showing up more fully in who you have become, who you already are. Yeah. So
Thank you.
yeah,
That's
thank you.
great.
Absolutely. Okay, you guys, thanks for being here live. It's great to see both of you, and I hope you have a beautiful day, and I'll see you real soon. Bye.